Hey guys, today we're going to talk about what to do when you have 5 minutes left. Now, that 5 minutes at the end of the test is like probably the most nerve-wracking thing you'll ever have to do. You got 10 questions left, so much to do, and you're starting to worry. Will I get enough questions right? Will my score be high enough? Do I need to take the test over again? There's so many different things that we get into. Well, what we're going to talk about today is a technique that's going to get you over that little hump. It's going to give you that extra 2 or 3 questions right to improve your scores. So, the first thing I want to let you know is that this isn't foolproof. It's not 100%. It's not going to guarantee you that you'll get every answer right. What it's going to help you do is get that 1 or 2 questions that it's going to save you some time and then maybe, improve your score a little bit more. So I want you to rely on these techniques only if you have 5 minutes left. If not, if you have time to study, review our lectures, and review the information that we've been talking about. So this is what's going to happen. You're going to come down to your test. You're going to be with the last 5 minutes. You're going to see, oh crap, I have 5 minutes left and I have this whole passage to read. And then you flip the page and you see all these questions and now you're just done. Your mind is blown. You're like, what do I do? Okay, this is where you need to not panic. What you're going to do here, and what I'm going to teach you, is we're going to reduce some of these questions. We're going to eliminate the ones that we're probably not going to have time to answer. And we're going to eliminate the ones that are going to take us more time than the other questions. So get to the questions that we know the answer for sure, and get rid of the ones that, it's going to require more than we want to invest. The first question that you want to answer is your vocab questions. Why vocab questions? Well, 2 different reasons. Number 1, the SAT is no longer about words that you don't use in speech. So it's going to be part of your everyday life. It's going to be words that you're common with, that that you probably use in your essays or with your teacher. So we're going to look at the vocab questions first of all, and the first thing you're going to do is you're going to look at your answer choices. Why the answer choices? Well, if you look at your answer choices and you realize that, okay, I know A, B, C, and D, but out of these 4, I don't know 2 of them. Well, then there's no reason to do this question. You're already 50-50 even with the words, definitions that you know. So you can just move on. Let's say you do know all 4 definitions. Then what do? Then this is the first question you want to answer. So you're looking at it. So it's in context. So you're reading it. So how much do you have to read? You're reading roughly about 2 sentences. If you're reading 2 sentences, it's about 30 to 45 seconds that you're going to put in. That's enough time to get 10 extra points. So the first thing you're going to do is you look at the sentence and you're going to look for similar words. Now these words are going to be your hints. If you can find the hints, then your answer choice is going to be really simple. So let me give you an example. The first thing we have is number 45 here. Number 45 here is it says, as used in line 13, editing most nearly means. Now, I'm pretty sure you guys know what editing means, so I'm not going to waste any time there. So the thing you do is you go straight to line 13 and you find the word editing. Now, if we had time, I would explain to you why the editing will work or how it works in the passage. But we don't have time. We have 5 minutes. So we're back here. It says, in theory, genome editing could be used to fix mutation responsible for heritable human diseases. So the key word we see is fix. Well, there was 2 hints. Well, they have it in parentheses, or they might have it behind a dash, or with quotations. But the first thing is we're looking for something that says editing, and the first word that we found that is close to editing was the word fix. So what we do is you pick fix, you go straight up here and look for something similar. Now SAT does this a lot with a very numerous number of questions. They're going to give you a certain synonym, and it's going to be within the passage. Once you find it, just pick it. Pick it. Don't think about it and just move on. Is it altering or revising? Well, it says fix, so we know it's not altering because they're fixing something that was originally wrong. So we're most likely thinking revising. Now, if you know what abridging and polishing is, yes, you could think about it. You could even say, okay, well, abridging means to reduce, but we don't have that much time. So the closest word that we found was to revise, so we pick it, and then we're going to move on. Another type of question that you probably want to answer is your purpose questions. The purpose questions are easy to answer because we know how to look for it. It doesn't have to give us lines. It doesn't have to tell us the location. We know that certain words are going to give us hints, and that's what we're going to look for. The second type is our purpose of an example or the purpose of a quote. Now, these questions we can eliminate certain questions just by the way the answer choices come out. So by the time you get done reading the question and the answer choices, it's going to have already taken up so much time, so you don't really want to waste too much time reading the passage. So let's look at a couple examples. So the question we have here is the primary purpose of the passage. Now, these are the first questions in most of your passages. So what do? You look at it. I don't want you to read the passage yet. Don't worry about the passage yet. You look at your answer choices. What do we have in the answer choices that can, differentiate between the passage or the answer and what we got here? Well, if you notice, our first words are going to be evaluate, present, evaluate, and explain. So basically, they're all pretty much saying that, okay, this is what the author's going to do. Now, where do I find this? Well, if you've been paying attention to our lectures, you know the format is going to be our thesis, and then we'll have an example, and then we're back to our thesis again, right? So normally, we would read our first thesis, or the first paragraph, and then we would read the last paragraph. But we're strained on time. So what do? We're going to ignore the top part, and we're just going to read the last paragraph. We have to. We've got to get this question right. It's one of those easy ones. So we looked at it and we saw evaluate the findings of a long-term study. B says, present the background of a scientific discovery. C says, evaluate competing theories in a scientific field. D, explain the prospects of a developing branch of science. So we know that if any of the answer choices, if one word doesn't work, it can't work for the rest of the passage. So we're going to go to the last paragraph and give it the 1 minute that it needs to get this question right. It says, Guping Feng, a neuroscientist at the Massachusetts Institute of Technology in Cambridge, hopes that with improvement, the technique could eventually be used to prevent genetic disease. But he argues that it is much too soon to be trying it in the clinic. Now is not the time to do human embryo manipulation, he says. If we do the wrong thing, we can send the wrong message to the public, and then the public will not support scientific research anymore. So we read it. We don't really understand it, or we don't even know what the passage says, but we know what this guy, Feng, is saying. So what can we get rid of right now? Well, we know we don't have competing theories. There's no two theories. We're not talking about argumentation. The but was trying to trick you, saying, okay, there could be two different things, but it doesn't state it, so we're going to get rid of it. So we have evaluate the findings of a long-term study. Well, we don't have any findings. We don't know any evaluations, so we're going to get rid of that. Now you're down to your B and D. This is where you have to either think or pick. Now, if you're thinking, explain the prospects. Okay, what's a prospect? It's the future, right? And then we have the background of a scientific discovery. So we're talking about a discovery, something that's already happened, or the prospect of something that could happen. Now, this is where you choose your answer. Now, do we have a branch of science, or do we have a background? We don't know. We don't have time. We just read the last part. But these are going to be the two answer choices you're going to have left. Pick your answer, and then move on. You can't let these questions or the answer you chose for one question affect you for the next question. The reason is they're not supposed to link to in any way. Let's look at the next example. Our example for the next one was number 52, the last question. So the 43, which was our primary purpose, was the first question. And then the last question, 83 to 87, is linked. We just read it, so we don't have to read this again, right? So we just go straight to our answer choices, and we eliminate and choose. So we have refute a new hypothesis, we have define a theory, we have clarify, and then we have reinforce. Well, we do know that he's not really refuting in the passage. Well, from what we read. We know that he's going against something, but it's not a new hypothesis, so we got rid of that. Well, is he clarifying an abstract concept? No, he's not clarifying anything. What is he doing? He's explaining something. So you're down to these two things. Now, here's your choices. Now, do you have a theory? Well, he's talking about human embryo manipulation, but there's no theory there, so we can get rid of that. So you pick your answer, and then you move on again. Now, why did I link these two? The reason I linked it was because I saw a question that was in line 83 through 87. I had a question that had primary purpose. So I had one paragraph that I had to read to answer two different questions. Did I get both of them right? Maybe, maybe not. But I know for sure that this question was pretty simple, and the primary purpose now makes more sense since I had 2 questions to review over it. So these purpose questions are probably going to be linked in one way or another. Once you get that done, then move on. The third type of question that we want to answer are our names and our numbers questions. Now, these questions are only answered because of the location. What does that mean? Well, you're going to have proper names. You're going to have numbers. You're going to have questions that's going to say, what happened in America in 1985? Or, what was the purpose of, scuba diving? They're going to give you certain words that are going to be capitalized. Why do we pay attention to this? Because they're easier to find within the passage. All you have to do is find those certain words and go on with the passage. So let me give you a couple examples. So the first thing that we have is the author's attitude toward CRISPR, and Cas9 technology is best described as one of. Now, when we talk about attitude, this is our plus and negative tone questions. Why do we change it to a tone question? Well, all we have to do is find this. Once you find this word in the passage, you look at the words around it. Is it positive or negative? Once you get that figured out, then you look at your answer choices. So we have cautious optimism. Well, that sounds positive. Unconcerned ambivalence. I'm going to leave that blank for now. I'll come back and I'll tell you why. You have restrained fear, so that feels negative. And then you have unqualified exuberance. Now, that is kind of a neutral. I have no idea what unqualified exuberance is. I guess it would mean just happy. So let's say, we looked at it in positive. So you have your answer choices. If the passage is positive, then you're down to these two. If it's negative, you only have one choice. Now, why did I eliminate A from right off the bat? Two different things. Number one, you can't be ambivalent about what you're writing. You can't not care and write about it. Another thing is, number two, the SAT for the last 20 years have not chosen a passage where the author is ambivalent. He may be neutral in his position or maybe neutral in his explanation of it, but he's not ambivalent. The words, the diction that he uses is either positive or negative. So anytime you see the word ambi, whether it's ambiguity or ambivalent, just get rid of it. It cannot be the answer. Once you get rid of that, then you're down to three choices, positive, negative, and then you choose your answer based on whatever words or whatever feeling that you got from it. The second part of question that we have is these questions. And the reason I picked this right here is it's a number question. Well, not really, right? It's not a number that's in the passage, but they gave us a number on a location that we have to read at. So what I do is I go straight to line 82, and it says, the phrase much is true most directly suggests that. So what do I read? Do I read 82? No. What I want you to do is I want you to read roughly about one sentence before line 82, so roughly about line 80 to 82, and look for your best answer. Once you get your answer, we know it's going to be human genome editing. Why? Well, all our answer choices talks about human genome editing. So you're looking for the keywords here. You're looking for the synonyms. You're looking for phrases. You're looking for, is it potential? Is it future? You're looking for these things. Once you find it, once again, pick your answer, and then move straight on. The last part probably might be the easiest part or might be the most difficult part. It depends on how you look at it. It's one of our two-part questions. The reason we don't do these first is because we're looking at the location of the passage more than anything else. So in these two-part questions, one, we're going to have something that's going to ask you a question about your comprehension. Two, it's going to ask you about evidence or your line references. Now these questions are going to be simplified in the only way that we know how to do it. So let's go right into it. So these are the two questions that we have, and it's going to be 48 and 49. So the first question says, according to the passage, which of the following is true of CRISPR technology? So once again, you're looking for this, right? Well, the thing is since 48 and 49 is linked, we're not going to pay attention to this question right now. We're going to ignore it. What we're going to do is we're going to look at this question. We know that the evidence from this is going to explain this. So we're looking at line 13 through 16, 29 to 30, 52 to 56, and 74 to 74. Now, I know what you're thinking. You're probably thinking, well, if I wanted to read all that, then why am I picking this question over anything else? Well, this is why. If you look at the other questions within the passage, so we have 48 and 49, and so on line number 45, we have line 13. We did that with our first question when we did vocab. And then the question behind it, on number 50, says line 73. So we basically know that if it's in chronological order, like I've been telling you guys, then the passage has to be in a certain location, right? So let's move on. So we come back to the question and we say, okay, let's see, number 45 was line 13, so we know that probably is not going to work. We're just going to eliminate it. Well, there's three questions in between, so most likely it's not going to be there. And then we go back up to it, and we have line 73 and number 50. So we get rid of this because, once again, it's chronological order, and it can't come after it. So these are our two answer choices. Once you're down to these two answer choices, the thing you got to do is you got to check this to find the answer here. Now, this is the hard part. How much time do you invest into it? The answer choice that's right for this one is going to be the answer choice here. So what's going to happen is, if you can reduce it to these two, you can pick your answer here. Now, is there any way you can reduce it more? Yes. If we looked at 46 to 47, we could probably get rid of one of these two just based on location. But since we don't have that time right now, you look at this question to answer this question. So what you'll do is you'll say, according to the passage, which of the following is true of CRISPR technology? And then you're looking for something that gives you facts on one of these two things. Once you find the fact, pick your answer, come back up to the passage, and pick the correct one there. Now, by the time you get done with these 5 or 6 questions, you're probably not going to have that much time left. You might have a minute. Well, if you're a fast reader, you might be down to a minute 30 seconds. If you're down to your last minute 30 seconds, then you don't really have time to review everything. So what you're going to do is you're going to look for synonyms. Now, I told you at the beginning that the only reason we're using these techniques is because we have to get things right. We don't have time. We have to get the question right. So let's improve our chances. So we're looking for synonyms. This is what SAT does best. They're going to give you a word, and they give you something similar to it within the answer choices. Just pick it and then move on. Remember, we're not picking random things. We're picking things based on what we've read so far. Some of the things we haven't read at all, so we just have to go randomly, right? So what do you do there? Then you rely on location. Okay? And that's what we talked about with the two-part question. If the previous question was, let's say, line 35 to 40, and we know the answer for that one, then we know the next one has to be somewhere behind 35 or behind line 40. So pick the best answer that you see there. Once again, find the location, look for the synonym, and then pick your synonym, and then move on. Last part is you got to pick your answers, and you got to pray. I mean, that's the best thing you can do. If we can get rid of 2 answer choices, you're going to be down to 50%. You know, it's based on luck from there on. Do I recommend this? No. If you've been paying attention to the lecture, you know, in the classes and stuff like that, you should know that we shouldn't be running out of time. You should have a tremendous amount of time to answer all the choices and have your best answer choice. But, you know, things happen. So if you're down to your last 5 minutes, these are some of the techniques that you should review. Once again, if you're down to 50%, that's better than 0% at all, right? That's it.